You know that feeling when you're trying to walk up a down escalator? That is your 30s and money. One minute, you're cashing a decent paycheck, feeling like you finally unlocked some secret cheat code to adulthood. And the very next minute, you're squinting at your banking app at midnight like it just personally betrayed you. Where the hell did it all go? Maybe it got completely swallowed by daycare costs that are basically a second rent payment. Maybe it evaporated into the Bermuda Triangle of wedding season because apparently every single person you have ever met decided to get married this exact year, and being a good friend now costs $1,500 a pop. If you're in your 30s right now and it feels like you're running in place while everyone else is cruising past you in the fast lane, stick with me for a second, because what we're talking about today might just flip a switch in your brain about how wealth actually gets built during the most gloriously chaotic decade of your life. Look, my name is Nick. I talk about money for a living. But not in that stale suit and tie, let's review your quarterly asset allocations kind of way that makes you want to take an immediate nap. If you are tired of constantly feeling behind and you want to actually understand how this wealth stuff works when real life gets messy, do me a huge favor. Hit that subscribe button and smash the like button. It takes you 2 seconds, but it helps the channel more than you know. Now, let's look at why everything feels so broken. Let me hit you with something that should feel like an immediate relief. Your 30s are not the decade where you magically have a shiny, perfect financial plan figured out. Sociologists and economists actually have a specific name for this stretch of your life. They call it the messy middle. And trust me, it earned that name honestly. This is the exact period where life decides to hit you from all sides simultaneously. You got career pressure because you're supposed to be in your peak earning years climbing some invisible corporate ladder. You've got family pressure because suddenly you're either figuring out how to raise small kids or you're helping your own parents figure out their aging logistics. And then you have the silent killer, social pressure. Your feed is just an endless, toxic scroll of friends buying homes with 3-car garages and taking picture-perfect European vacations while you're sitting over here eating Honey Nut Cheerios for dinner for the 3rd time this week. But here's the secret they don't print on the financial brochures. This chaos is completely normal, and more importantly, it is not a sign that you are failing at money. The messy middle got its name because everyone walks through it, even the people who end up genuinely wealthy later in life. The difference isn't that rich people somehow dodge the mess entirely. The difference is that some people learn to build wealth right in the dead center of the mess, while others let the chaos convince them to just give up. Think about what is actually happening to your wallet right now from a structural standpoint. You are likely earning more money than you ever have in your life, which sounds fantastic until you realize you are also spending more money than you ever have. Your rent or mortgage has probably doubled since your 20s. If you have kids, you've quickly discovered that small humans are essentially adorable little money-shredding machines disguised as precious angels. If you don't have kids, you're probably trying to stockpile cash for a wedding down payment or a house down payment, which feels like trying to fill a concrete swimming pool with an eyedropper. And then the comparison trap triggers a total existential crisis. It looks like everyone else got the user manual for adulting that you somehow missed. Your college roommate just bought a property. Your coworker is maxing out their 401k while jetting off to Amalfi every summer. Your feed is a constant highlight reel of kitchen remodels and pricey hobbies. It makes you wonder, did I skip a mandatory financial orientation day? Here's the sting of truth that will actually set you free. Most of those people don't have it figured out either. They are just world-class performers at looking like they do on the outside. Let's look at the actual data. The median net worth for someone in their early 30s in the US is way lower than you think. We're talking a median of around $39,000 by age 30. That is everything they own minus everything they owe. And the actual cash and liquid investments piece of that may be $17,000 for the typical 30-year-old. The average American doesn't even seriously start investing for retirement until age 33. The median age for a first-time home buyer, 40 years old. If you started throwing even pocket change into a retirement account in your 20s, you are statistically ahead of the pack. If you have any kind of emergency cushion at all, you are doing better than a huge chunk of your peers. This isn't about making you feel superior to other people. It's about forcing you to realize that this behind feeling is a complete psychological mirage. You are comparing your messy, unedited, behind-the-scenes reality to everyone else's carefully curated, heavily filtered highlight reel. Personal finance isn't a track and field sprint where everyone lines up at the same line, at the same time, wearing the same shoes. It's a muddy, exhausting marathon where everyone started at a different point, on a different terrain, carrying completely different baggage. The beautiful thing about your 30s, despite all this chaos, is that time is still stubbornly on your side. Let's make this completely tangible with the math. Say you're 30 years old. You're earning $100,000, and you've managed to scrape together $100,000 in total savings. That might feel like a snail's pace when you read about 22-year-old crypto millionaires. But if you did absolutely nothing else, if you never added another single dollar to that pile and just let that $100,000 grow at a standard 8% annually, you are looking at over $200,000 by the time you turn 40. Your money doubles without you lifting a single finger. Now, if you can find a way to shovel just $450 a month on top of that existing pile, you will have banked over 3 times your annual income by age 40. The wealth multiplier in your 30s is still screamingly powerful. Every single dollar you lock away in your early 30s has the historical power to multiply by 20 times by the time you retire. Starting right now is still infinitely better than waiting until your 40s or 50s. This brings me to a massive mindset shift you have to make right now. Your financial journey is not a straight line. Life is going to body check your perfect little spreadsheets. You might lose a job. You might face unexpected medical bills. You might have to step up and help a family member. That does not mean you are failing at money. It means you are living a normal human life. Successful people don't avoid setbacks. They just understand that financial progress sometimes looks like moving forward, sometimes looks like moving backwards, and sometimes looks like just standing sideways while you handle the storm. The key isn't perfection, it's persistence through the beautiful disaster. Because let's face it, there will be a month where you save $800 and feel like an absolute financial rock star. And then, bam, your car's transmission dies, your kid suddenly needs braces, and your best friend asks you to be in their wedding party, which apparently requires a dress or a tuxedo that costs more than your monthly grocery budget. This is where an emergency fund stops being a boring financial tip and becomes a literal sanity preserver. Think of it as buying yourself margin in life. When you've got 3 to 6 months of expenses sitting in a boring, high-yield savings account, you aren't just dodging catastrophe. You are avoiding desperate, high-interest decisions that can set you back for years. Having cash when everyone else is broke is its own form of quiet wealth. When their car blows up and they're forced to swipe a credit card at 24% interest, you just pay the bill and move on with your life. But here is the silent wealth killer in your 30s. Lifestyle inflation. This is the decade where your income finally starts to scale. You get a promotion. You land a raise from $50,000 to $65,000. You are making $15,000 more a year. But here is where most people completely sabotage themselves. Their lifestyle automatically expands to devour every single new dollar. A fancier apartment, a brand new car lease, nicer happy hours, higher-end groceries. Suddenly, they are making more money, but they are still living paycheck to paycheck, just at a higher income level. The people who actually build wealth do something radical when they get a bump in pay. They change absolutely nothing. They keep their old lifestyle exactly where it was and automate that entire raise straight into their investment accounts before they even have a chance to see it in their checking account. That single decision, capturing the raise instead of spending it, is where the compound interest train really leaves the station. But above all else, please do not let building wealth become an obsession that steals your actual life. Money is a tool. It is not the final score. Your 30s are going to contain some of the most core memory, vibrant years of your entire life. This is the decade where you are establishing who you are professionally, maybe building a family, taking trips while your body still feels great, and nurturing lifelong relationships. Yes, be consistent with your savings. Yes, automate your investments, but do not get so profoundly fixated on an arbitrary net worth milestone that you miss out on the experiences that actually matter to you. The goal isn't to die with the most money in the vault. The goal is to have enough money to live a life you genuinely enjoy. Learn the art of conscious spending. Spend intentionally on the things you truly value and cut costs ruthlessly on the things you don't. If a nice home brings you peace, prioritize it. If eating out at fancy restaurants does nothing for your happiness, cut it out. Understand your own wiring. Your financial path won't look like anyone else's, and that is the entire point. The beautiful irony of feeling completely lost in your 30s is that almost every single person who eventually becomes wealthy felt exactly the same way during this decade. They were entirely convinced they were financial disasters while quietly making the tiny, boring decisions that would transform their lives 20 years later. The difference isn't that they never felt overwhelmed by money. It's that they kept making good, unglamorous moves, even when those moves felt insignificant at the time. What does compound interest actually look like in practice? In your early 30s, a single dollar invested can become $20 by retirement. But people hear those stats and expect fireworks in 6 months. They contribute $400 a month, check their balance after 2 quarters, see it's only gone up by exactly what they put in, and think something is broken. They are waiting for an explosion, when compound interest actually starts as a faint, barely audible whisper. The acceleration happens gradually, then suddenly. For the first few years, your contributions do the heavy lifting. Sometime around year 7 or 8, the compounding effect tags in and starts pulling its own weight. By year 15, it's doing the majority of the work, while you just sit back. This is exactly why people in their 50s and 60s look back at their messy, imperfect 30s as the most pivotal decade of their lives. They were pouring a foundation deep underground. It was boring, it was invisible, but without it, the entire structure that came later would have been physically impossible to build. So here is the raw truth about building wealth in your 30s that no one else wants to admit. It's messy. It's imperfect. It is almost certainly not going to look like an Instagram-worthy financial journey. But if you can embrace the chaos, keep your strategy so simple it feels stupid, and remember that compound interest doesn't give a rip about your daily timeline, you will look back in 20 years and wonder why you were ever so worried about being behind. Your future self is counting on the beautifully imperfect decisions you make today. Keep going, keep it simple, and I'll see you in the next video.